You know, it's not a lot. The Guardians' offense lately.
Offense?
Yeah, it's not a lot.
It is.
At all.
We are running out of adjectives to describe how poorly they have played through the first 37 games of the season now. They're 17-20. They got shut out by the Tigers yesterday. I did a bunch of stats. I'll save those for the end because I don't want to ruin the mood totally yet. But, Jason, we talked about them last week when they beat the Twins in that series. Hey, this might be the turning point. They just got 2 or 3 from the first-place team. They come back and they drop 2 of 3 at home to the Tigers. Did we jump the gun, get a little too excited a little too early about this team?
I don't know. But it's getting to the point where we can stop saying it's early. You know?
Oh, we can. I thank you for letting me out the doghouse. Let's go.
Well, no, I just think around Memorial Day, start of June, is when you figure out who you are, you know, in terms of baseball. All through April, all through May, you can say it's early. There's plenty of time. And that may still be the case in the divisional race, even in June and July. No one's going to run away with this division. The Twins, I don't think the Twins are that good. The White Sox are an absolute disaster. The Tigers are improved, but they're not ready yet, and the Royals are quite a bit behind. So nobody's going to run away from the Guardians and hide. But there comes a point where you just have to look and say we are who we are. And to me, that's around June 1st. Once you get through Memorial Day weekend, that's when sometimes managers get fired. If you haven't turned it around by then, that's when guys go. Obviously, that's not happening here, but I'm just saying.
Go ahead and preface that. You know you are Jason Lloyd.
Yeah,
they will tell you.
They'll twist it.
They
They'll
will
aggregate
say.
it. They will take just that little segment
Yeah,
and tweet
I
it
know.
out.
Obviously, that's not. But I mean, that's when you have enough of a sample size to know who you are. And if this team doesn't get this thing turned around in the next couple of weeks and guys start picking it up, you know, I think that you can make the definitive statement of yeah, this is just going to be a down year, and it happens in baseball. We're not at that point yet. But I'm just saying Memorial Day weekend is when you really, for me at least, start to figure out who you are.
Gee.
You know, for me, I think the Guardians, as the philosophy of which they built their team, it always just seems like their ceiling is, all right, they can get past the wild card, get to the second round, and they can kind of compete at that point. Like, they can compete. It'll be difficult to win a series in the second round against a team like the Astros or the Yankees or teams like of that ilk that can put the ball in the stands. I think if you go back and you listen to everything we've said in the beginning, go back to spring training. And I think there was a time where it was Jason, Bull, and Jay on.
It's the smartest baseball panel in the city of Cleveland, by the way.
And I don't think nobody else taught baseball besides them. Like, there might be a couple dudes. Andre not, but he's at the game.
Zach Meyer.
Like, yeah, right. So, but no, you heard them talk about it. A couple of people who are going to fall back and regress to the mean.
Yeah.
When you have a bunch of players that played well, lights out, and they were giving you Oscar Gonzalez was giving you moments in the playoffs where he was hitting game-winning home runs. Rosario was giving you solid at-bats and getting clutch hits. Quan was doing it all year long. When you look at that team and they were so scrappy last year and everything worked out well, there was always going to be a chance that 2 or 3 of those guys did not play well this year. And guess what? You got a couple. Oscar Gonzalez is down in the minors. AAA. Miles Straw was batting well at the beginning of the year. He's come back down to earth. You don't have the power numbers. And then on top of it, what really hurts is if you are a Guardians team that need to infuse your roster with some hitting and some power, and you go out and spend money on Zunino and Bell, and they don't give you exactly what. Now it looks really crazy, right? So, some of these guys are going to regress, and that's what happened. So now the question is, how much of a leeway do you have to get behind a team like Minnesota? Like, I think they'll be there all year, but my question is, are they going to be able to beat anybody from the AL East? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they're fine in the grand scheme of things right now because the AL Central's flat out putrid. The last place team in the AL East would be the first place team in the AL Central. It is what it is right now. This division is a blessing for the Guardians because we saw the standings earlier. They're 17-20 and they're like 2 games out of first place.
Yeah.
And the only other team that's equally as bad at them offensively is the Minnesota Twins. And I got some numbers here, and I tried to break this down as simply as possible because there's so many different baseball stats. You could tell me these are too minute, too obscure, too wide, whatever. Here's what I know. The Tigers' team ERA is 4.33. Heading into this weekend series, it was 4.33. Put it simply, that means they average giving up 4 1/3 runs per game. The Cleveland Guardians scored 4 runs in 3 games against those Detroit Tigers.
Yep.
So you go into that series based on the averages. Theoretically speaking, they should have scored 12.9 runs, 13 runs. They scored 4. They scored less than 3 games, and the Tigers give up, on paper, throughout the first 35 games of the season, they do per. We know they don't hit home runs. They have 19 home runs as a team. That is by far last, 5 fewer than any other team. So if you're not going to hit home runs, what did the Guardians do last year, G? They made contact. They got singles. They got doubles. They had an on-base percentage. They stole bases. They played small ball. And you can win like that in the regular season, at least. Well, to this point of the season, and I'm not going to belabor the numbers because we know they're bad, but they are second to last in team batting average. They are last in on-base percentage. They have a .297 on-base percentage, by the way.
Awful.
That's historically bad.
Yeah.
They're last in slugging. They're second to last in total hits. And sometimes baseball, you have bad luck. You hit the ball hard. It gets caught. You hit it right at somebody. Well, they have a 25.3 hard hit rate according to StatCast. That is dead last in the league. So they're not hitting the ball hard, they're not hitting the ball at all, and they're not hitting for power. And when you put that together, unless you have DeGrom in his prime, Nolan Ryan in his prime, Satchel Paige in his prime, Randy Johnson in his prime, and Martin Rivera as your closer, giving up 0.5 runs a game, you're not going to win baseball games. So when you look at what's happening, it is too early to totally panic, but all the red flags are waving. Like, it is a windy, gusty day. You got flags on the top of your house. They are gusting. They're all red. They're saying there is something wrong with this team. It is not time to burn the house down. But if you do have to burn it down, we can look back at what happened in late April and early May and say, hey, all the signs were there that this was a flawed team, and it just didn't pan out.
I think what makes this frustrating is the same thing that maybe should provide, even still, a little bit of hope and optimism. So if you want something to cling to, last year they played 17 rookies. We made a big deal about it and how they all contributed. They all played well. They're not really relying on those guys, though. It's a little bit misleading to say, like, sophomore slump and stuff like that because, okay, Stephen Kwan it applies to in terms of guys who they're asking to contribute who were rookies last year. And Arias now in right field, now that Oscar's down, Oscar didn't live up to what they needed him to. And Brennan in that sort of right field hole, those 3 really comprise 1. But aside from that, the guys who are struggling are guys who have been around or have proven themselves or have a little bit more of a track record. It's, Jose Ramirez isn't having the year that he did last year. He's not as terrible as some of these other guys we're talking about.
He's still hitting .290 with 4 home runs and 20 RBIs.
And part of the issue with him is there's nobody on base for him when he comes to the plate.
Ever.
But Andres Giménez has not lived up to the contract to this point. But again, he was a 7-WAR player last year. That is an astronomical number. I don't think you go from a 7-WAR player to forgetting how to put your shoes on.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I still think that he will be okay. Naylor's been a huge disappointment. We mentioned Zunino and Bell as big disappointments, veteran signings that have not been good offensively. So it's not like it's this big sophomore slump rookie regression with these guys. It's the veterans. And I'll even count Giménez as a veteran for this conversation. You got a $100 million contract.
You're a veteran. Yeah. You're no longer just a sophomore. You are officially in the category of we expect things from you.
And he's had a couple years in the majors now. He had some time with the Mets, some time with the Guardians and figured things out, got the big contract. Now there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So it's not even just a matter of the young kids that we want to classify. It's these guys that they're counting on. And so, Tito said multiple times he's gonna rely on track records when guys have track records. And so you have to continue. I mean, what choice do you have? As Francona said and Chris Antonetti echoed, there's nobody coming from AAA. Like Tyler Freeman came up, but there's, George Valera could have been an option in right field, but he's another left-handed hitter in a lineup that's already full of lefties, and he hasn't even started yet because he's coming back from a hand injury, and hopefully he should be getting back to affiliated ball here soon. He's still rehabbing. But there's no, like we talk about this wave of pitching coming up and Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams and Logan Allen and all these arms that are coming. Well, that's not necessarily the case on the offensive side. It's George Valera, maybe a little bit of Tyler Freeman, and that's really it.
Bo Naylor, maybe.
Bo Naylor. Naylor's having a good year at AAA.
Educate us on that because they've obviously, when you see a team like this, they've been awesome at figuring out pitching. They've been awesome of getting the arms, developing them, bringing them up at the right time, not too early, not too late. So why is there not a philosophy? Can you not do that with hitting? You have a lot of left-hand bats. From an organizational structure, can't they just focus and say, hey, listen, we are looking to develop power hitting right-handed players, or are those guys unicorns in baseball and they don't fall off the tree like
No,
that?
they're not unicorns, and certainly, that's the hope, is that they develop bats along the way. They haven't done a great job, particularly the outfield. The Manny Ramirez,
Right.
Grady Sizemore, even Sizemore came over in trade. They haven't had a ton of outfield prospects that they've really developed. Lindor was homegrown. He was a high pick. They did everything right with him. And then they couldn't sign him, so they flipped him and they brought in more guys who were young. And Jimenez ended up taking the contract Lindor wouldn't take, frankly. And now Jimenez is going to be locked up for a long time. But yeah, it's been one of the blind spots has been developing offensive-minded guys. But the minors are flush with hitters, so it's kind of double talk. But like a guy like Brian Rocchio, one of their top prospects, is a shortstop. I think Arias is ahead of him. Like, I get this feeling that a lot of fans sort of look at Gabriel Arias as this utility type player, and Rocchio is the shortstop of the future. I don't think that's accurate. I think Arias is going to get the look before Rocchio, but right now Rosario's blocking that. And listen, if they fall out of it completely, that's probably going to change.
He's definitely gone. If they
Rosario's
fall out.
gone.
Definitely.
Yeah, but as long as they're lingering and hanging around, Rosario's going to be the shortstop on this team. So it's just where they're at in their development. There's no big bats coming this year. Jackenzie Noel's another power hitter that they have in the minors, but I don't think he's ready to help this year.
And their first-round pick last year, Chase DeLauder at
Yeah.
the JMU. He got hurt, but he's, I think, in maybe still high A ball,
Yeah.
double A ball
Yeah, he's
at
not
most.
ready.
So some of these guys in the minor league system, you can fast track, but that doesn't mean they go from high A rookie ball to the majors in 1 year to help. Like it's just a longer progression for hitters. And
They've tried. Clint Frazier, Bradley Zimmer, these were first-round picks, outfield prospects that were first-round picks. They just didn't pan out. It happens in baseball all the time.
Baseball might be the hardest sport to draft in. Like the hit rate of dudes who are first-round picks that make it as opposed to just random later-round picks that make it, it varies so heavily.
Now, in their favor, pitching is so much more expensive than hitting, and it's such a premium, and they've got that locked. And it was funny. I was talking to Bybee the other day, and I said, "How is it a guy goes from throwing high 80s in college to 98, 99 in the pros?" And he wouldn't like. And I said, "You're not going to give up the secret sauce." He's like, "No, like it's the whole organization keeps it on lockdown. I don't know what they're doing." And we talked a little bit about like lower body and coming up with strength. I don't know. Like I'm going to keep pecking away at that and gnawing at that. Because it's fascinating to me that they take these guys. Bieber was the same way, although Bieber's velocity's dropped, whether it was the sticky stuff or the shoulder. I don't know, but he's not throwing. For a while, Shane was throwing 98, 99.
Yeah, he was.
And now he's down to 91, 92. But Bybee very much was the Bieber type of control guy in college, wasn't highly thought of coming into the draft, didn't throw real hard. He was a command guy. And now they've got him throwing 98, 99. And Gavin Williams throws even harder. Gavin Williams is sitting 100, 101 in his minor league
He looks so good in the AA highlights I see. Now, granted, he's going against AA hitters.
He's AAA now. He's up in Columbus.
His stuff is as good as Bybee, as good as Allen, as good as Battenfield have been. Gavin Williams' stuff, at least his stuff, pure filth. So they have one side of the equation done, as you mentioned. It's the expense. That's actually the harder side to develop, which is so kind of mind-boggling that they've had struggled on the other side because you look at farm systems. Some teams just put out bats. The Rays find dudes out of nowhere. Come out of the minor leagues and they're hitting 6, 7, 8 home runs through 30 games. You're like, who the hell is this? And the Guardians, on the other hand, have these pitchers coming up who 7, 8 strike. I think Bieber's 9 strikeout game on, what was that, Tuesday night when we went out to dinner? Was the most strikeouts I had all season. 2, 3, and 4. Battenfield, Allen, Bybee. So